Yes, and it's been announced that US President Joe Biden will visit Israel tomorrow to be briefed on its plans for war against Hamas. Israeli defence forces are on the verge of a major ground offensive in retaliation to the terror attacks that killed at least 1,400 people.
Here in the UK, it's been confirmed that teenage sisters Noya and Yael and their father Eli are among the British citizens missing in Gaza after the conflict erupted last weekend. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak confirmed yesterday that 6 British lives have been lost in Hamas's attacks.
Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis continues to unfold in Gaza. Nick Maynard has been helping to train surgeons there for more than a decade. Nick, you were due to be there this week, but you've not been able to make it. How are your colleagues doing on the ground?
They're having a terrible time, to be honest. I and my colleagues are in contact with them on a regular basis, and they are trying to save patients in the most appalling circumstances, and their resources to do so are rapidly running out, and they are in a desperate situation.
Nick, Nick, there were reports yesterday that that doctors in hospitals there were rationing water at 300 millilitres a day per patient. And yet, yesterday on Sky News and then later on Piers Morgan Uncensored, an ambassador for Israel argued that there is no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. What's your response to that?
Well, that's simply not true. I'm in contact regularly. We've set up in Oxford, we've set up a social media platform called Gaza Medics Voices on Instagram and Twitter, which provides a platform for medics and nurses in Gaza to post pictures, quotes, talk, and we're hearing hourly about the devastation there, and the humanitarian catastrophe. So, frankly, for people to claim that is utterly wrong.
It's interesting. Nick, thank you so much indeed for joining us on Talk today. I think everybody was outraged and appalled by the atrocities of a week ago. And I think that maintains in people's minds. Let's not forget those images. They were absolutely abhorrent. And it is through that terrorist organisation. Of course, as the world and the week has moved on, people are concerned quite rightly about a humanitarian crisis. And quite justifiably, it's fair to say that any victims are wrong. It would be obviously beneficial if Israel could exact revenge, get their hostages back. But in terms of Gaza, Nick, we know this, the tunnel situation. Somebody said to us on this show yesterday, more tunnels underground than the London Underground. Apparently Hamas, their headquarters are built under a hospital. You are approaching this from a humanitarian point of view. What are the chances in your mind, sir, that the politicians might listen to you? Because there seems no end to this. Where does it end?
You're absolutely right. I'm not a politician, so I'm approaching it from an entirely humanitarian perspective, and I hope the politicians will do that as well. You're right. The events in Israel were utterly appalling, and we all abhor all deaths like that. But if one approaches it entirely from a humanitarian perspective, one cannot ignore what's going on in Gaza. And however appalling the events of a week ago in Israel, the humanitarian crisis, there are thousands of people dying. And if aid is not allowed into Gaza shortly to help the doctors and nurses treat the patients, it will get inestimably worse as well.
Nick, who's stopping that aid coming in? We had pictures yesterday, Nick, didn't we, of that Rafah border between Egypt and Gaza. Now, we are told, and you'll know more, that that's not being able to be opened up because Hamas will then control it, which leads to the argument that if Hamas cared about the Palestinian people, they would let them leave. But are they using them as human shields? We're back to a political debate. Why isn't that border being opened, my friend?
I can't answer that, I'm afraid. I mean, I think the notion that opening a pathway through Rafah will enable all the aid to get in to help Gaza is frankly fanciful, I think. I think the vast majority of the border is through Israel, and I think the Israeli government need to allow aid to get in through Israel.
Yeah. Well, Nick Maynard, thank you so much for joining us this morning.